I've got a confession to make. The last time I showed my collection, I held back, and my number one book was Amazing Fantasy number 15. But this time, I'm showing you everything, including my Golden Age books, and Amazing Fantasy number 15 doesn't even crack my top five. So let's get started. At number 25, we have Fantastic Four number 52, which is the first appearance of the Black Panther. I bought this book from a dealer over in Australia who somehow got it across the ocean, and I brought it back to the United States. A really cool Jack Kirby cover. At number 24, we have Avengers Comics number 57. This is the first cover appearance of the Vision. Absolutely love this John Buscema cover. And you have the Avengers there lower in the background and the Vision standing over them saying, "Behold the Vision." At 23, this is four color number 199. And I love this Donald Duck cover. You have him being the sheriff of the valley. People are shooting at Donald Duck, and he's got these bullets that are bouncing off of his star. And in the background, underneath the boulder, you have Huey, Dewey, and Louie. This is the first Spider-Man book I'm going to show here at number 22. This is Amazing Spider-Man number 13. It is, of course, the first appearance of Mysterio. What's funny about this cover, too, is that if you look down at the bottom, they're talking about psychiatry and how it's this huge deal. Let's move on to number 21. This is another Golden Age book from the early 50s, 1951. This is a Ziff Davis book, and it's Perfect Love, number 3. Now, this book is really nice. It's a painted cover. Why is it in my top 25? It's because of where it comes from. It's actually from the Mile High collection, which is the most famous Golden Age pedigree of them all. It looks really great. I'm not sure why I got an 8.5. An 8.5 is actually a pretty low grade for the Mile High collection, but I love it. It looks great with those white pages. Here is the newest book in my collection, newest in terms of when it was originally published. It's from 1988, and it is Amazing Spider-Man number 300, which is the first appearance of a modern villain, and that is Venom. It's got this great Todd McFarlane cover. It was actually a book that came out when I was collecting. We have Super Magician, Volume 4, number 5. And back in the day, it was really popular to make a person look bad by putting a hood over them. And I think that's pretty true today as well. And you have this hooded guy here with a damsel in distress, and you have a super magician in the background trying to fend off the enemies. In fact, this is often thought of as a poor man's version of Suspense Comics number 3, which is the most expensive non-superhero comic book in the hobby. And at number 18 is a book that many of you all will recognize. This is Mad Comics number 1 from 1952 that was done by EC. What's funny is that it originally came out as a comic book, but then because of the comic book code, Mad changed over to the magazine format, so it didn't have to go through the code. At number 17 is the first appearance of an original Avenger, and I'm talking about the Wasp. So this is Tales to Astonish number 44. I love the classic Kirby monster there, and Wasp is saving Ant-Man on this cover. This is a book from 1963, and 1963 was a banner year for Silver Age Marvel books. The first Iron Man, X-Men, Avengers, Amazing Spider-Man number 1, they all came out in 1963. Now let me move to the most infamous book I have, and this is Crime Suspense Stories number 22. It came out in 1954 by EC. Now, EC was the publisher that put out a lot of books that were horror, and the covers were often gruesome. So just check out this Johnny Craig cover. It's a beheading cover, and you could just imagine an 8-year-old going up to the newsstand, picking this up, and the parents being like, what the heck is going on here? This book was Exhibit A on the congressional hearings talking about how comic books were corrupting the youth. Now we're really starting to heat up. At number 15, we have Avengers Comics number 1 in 1963. This is the first time that these heroes got together as the Avengers. On this cover, we have Loki, Iron Man, Hulk, Thor, Ant-Man, and the Wasp. And harking back actually to the last book, you can see that this book has the comic book code to it. So that was due to Crime Suspense Stories number 22 and the other books that EC and the like were putting out. Let's go back to Golden Age horror, and this is 1953 from Harvey Publications. We're talking about Chamber of Chills number 19, just a gorgeous horror cover. You have there the skeleton who is raising a toast, and through the liquid of the glass, you can see the woman, and now part of her face is a skeleton. A really cool detail here is if you look at the cufflinks, you can see a tiny skull. Now on to lucky number 13. We have Startling Comics number 52. And this is a Schomburg airbrush cover. This book is fairly well known, but in this high grade, it's rare. So there are two books, I think, that are graded higher than this one, in 9.6 and 9.8. But you have Marna, who is there in that air bubble. You have Lance Lewis, who's trying to save her. And you have the Sawfish, who is going around the globe. I'm just a fan of these underwater scenes. Let's go back to Alex Schomburg again. And it's another airbrush cover. This is Wonder Comics number 16. And this is a ridiculously high grade. It's a 9.6. It's also a pedigree copy. It's from the Promise collection. It's the first appearance of Tara. And let me tell you, if you can get a Golden Age book, this one's from 1948. If you can get a Golden Age book that's above a 9.0, let me tell you, you're looking at something special. There are 3 books that are at 9.6, none higher. And this is truly a world-class, beautiful book. At number 11, we have another first appearance of an Avenger. And this, of course, is our favorite metalhead. First appearance of Iron Man, Tales of Suspense, number 39. Some people hate this cover. I absolutely love it. You have this really primitive version of Iron Man, and he's standing there in a real Kirby stance. You have him saying, who? Well, of course, it's Iron Man. It's Tony Stark behind that mask. Next up at number 10, we're going to another major Silver Age key. This is Amazing Spider-Man number 1 at a 3.5. I bought it 10 years ago, and it was my first foray back into comic book collecting since I was a kid. I got this book for $2,500 back in 2012, and the book has just skyrocketed since then. So 10 years later, this book in this grade is selling for $15,000 plus. This was the book that I most desired when I was a kid and was so happy to get it 25 years later. So we've seen a few of these airbrush covers before, and this is a special one. This is Wonder Comics number 15, and this is the second best known Schomburg airbrush cover that there is. Absolutely gorgeous. You have the lady who is sitting down under a microscope, and you have the giant with the scalpel who's about to do some bad things, and you have the hero in the background trying to save her. Now, this is also a pedigree book. It's the D copy. It's a 9.4. There are 5 or 6 books that are at 9.4 and none higher. So this is tied for the highest graded in the world. A really cool book. Let's move to number 8. This is another classic cover, but different artist. This is Matt Baker, who is arguably the best Good Girl artist that there was in the Golden Age. And this is 7 Seas Comics number 4, which many people consider to be his masterpiece. The grade here is a 6.5. You had the lady, she is underwater, and I just love the way he mixes those colors and makes them look so wavy. And you have the shark there in the background too. This is one of my favorite books and the favorite book of my wife as well. Now we're on to number 7. And you might be thinking, when was Amazing Fantasy number 15 going to show up? And it's at number 7. And what a great book. This is the holy grail of the Silver Age. You have Spider-Man, who is slinging across the city in his first appearance. I love this Jack Kirby cover, and I love the way that buildings are drawn too. This book is tough to find that looks good in kind of that low to mid grades. This is a 3.5. What I like about this is it doesn't have any Marvel chipping, which is so common in lower grade books. A few years ago, I had a 4.0 and a 4.5, and I sold both of them, and I didn't have AF-15 in my collection, and I felt really naked. And so a few years ago, I paid twice as much money for a 3.5, but glad to have this book in my collection, and the book has gone up a lot since then as well. If you love classic covers, then you're going to love the books I'm going to show next. They are some of the best covers of all the Golden Age. So this is a book that I originally went after at auction, and I just missed out. And several nights afterwards, I kept dreaming about the cover over and over again. I was like, I have to have it. And then a little while later, I was able to score a really nice copy. So this is Submariner Comics number 11 from 1943. It's a timely cover, and it's by Alex Schomburg. And during the war years, he was doing all these great covers of the Human Torch, Captain America, and Submariner. In this particular cover, Subby is in the jaws of a dragon, and I love the way that the lips look so heavy on his hands. And then you have this flame that's just spouting out from the nostrils of the dragon. You have the damsel in distress there as well, and you have the evil fiend dude with the spear in the background. And by the way, if you are a big fan of the Submariner, please consider subscribing. This next book is really special to me. I met a dealer, a really nice guy named Jim Payette, who discovered the Nova Scotia pedigree up in Canada. And this is one of the books that came from that pedigree. And it's More Fun Comics number 54. In my opinion, This is the best Spectre cover that has ever been done. But you have the Spectre who's like 100 feet tall, looking very ominous. He's got like all these people behind him. He's actually stepping on an airplane. He's got one airplane in the hand. He's trying to snatch another one. And this is about as good of a cover as you'll get. So to me, More Fun 54 is to Spectre as Tech 31 is to Batman. By the way, this is a super early book too. It came out in early 1940. The grade is super high. It's a 9.0. There are 2 books that are 9.2. This is tied for the 3rd best copy in the world. Next up is a book that is very well known, and this is Captain America Comics #1. Of course, it's the first appearance of Captain America. It has the most famous right hook of all comic books. So you have Cap hitting Hitler in the jaw. You have a lot of action going on there. It's a cover by Kirby and Simon. It came out in early 1941. In fact, before the U.S. entered World War II. This book is also among the most 10 valuable books in all the hobby. Now, this book would be higher on my personal list if it weren't restored. So you can see it's got that purple label to it. Very nice book, and I'm very pleased to have it in my collection. So let's go from number 4 to number 3. And I alluded to this book before. It is the most famous airbrush cover that Alex Schomburg has done. This one came out in 1948. It's Startling Comics number 49. Many people call this the Bender cover. The grade here is a 9.4. It's from the White Mountain pedigree. Absolutely beautiful. I love the way that robot looks, the yellow eyes, the way that water has the ripples into it. Is an absolutely beautiful cover. Many people think it's the best cover of all the Golden Age. I'm not sure about that, but I think it's one of the best. Second book is a book that I've never shown before, and it's so crazy rare. It is Daring Mystery Comics #1. And this is Alex Schomburg's first cover that he ever did, and it came out in January of 1940. At least that's the date on it. It actually hit the newsstands in late 1939. Daring Mystery was the second series that Timely put out after Marvel Mystery. And so this is one of the very first Marvel comic books, if you will. First appearances of several characters, but these characters have long been lost to time. So this book is well known because of the cover and because it's Schomburg's first art. And this is also a ridiculous grade for this book. It's a 9.2. There's only one book that's graded higher. That's the Denver pedigree. This one is from the Windy City pedigree. So really nice book and super rare. This next book is my favorite book of all time. I am a cover freak, and you've already been hearing me talk about Alex Schomburg. And I referred to it once before as well. It's Suspense Comics #3. This is the most expensive non-superhero comic book. If you want to hear more about this book, check out this video. Thanks so much for hanging with me, and hope to see you around real soon.